On this day, this is a promise to you, a promise we made. She comes when we need her.
Well, good evening, everyone here in the U.S., and good morning for those over in Australia. I'm Mark from Eclectic Arts Media, and this is the Fun Table Sessions 2025. It's the very first one for this year, and the last time I did one of these was over a year ago. So I want to say it was about September of 2024, and so this is Sunday, the 16th of November, 2025 over here. And just quickly to kind of go over how these started back in July of 2020 when I was on the Inside Out virtual tour with Alice. I was trying to figure out a way to do my 30-minute interview sessions a little bit differently. So I thought, well, maybe I can have 3 guests come back and I'll just find some random questions on the internet and I'll ask the guests those questions. And that morphed into, especially if you put into the headspace of 2020 and into 2021, that it turned into like happy hour sessions where we're just kind of hanging out. And we definitely I had beers here, and some guests had different types of alcohol, and some had, coffee, tea, whatever floated their boat. And we were just kind of shoot the breeze for a while about all kinds of random things. I got to see some guests' houses because they took their cameras and stuff and walked around and showed all kinds of things that they had. And then, of course, as things kind of opened up, and even for my schedule, then things got to be where I was doing less live streams in terms of one-on-ones, and then definitely less fun table sessions. So a lot of times, if I'm lucky, like I am today, these things happen at the end of the year, because as I'm doing one-on-one interviews virtually, I'm trying to find people that I think might be a good fit for a fun table session. And that's nothing against the guests. It's just that sometimes certain personalities kind of stand out to me, sometimes backgrounds for sure. And when I kind of see this kind of overlapping, I'm like, well, I wonder if they're interested in kind of doing this type of thing. So typically, the guests have never met each other like tonight. If they come back and do more, then there's a chance of some overlap. That, oh, yeah, I met you the last time. The third guest over here is the new person. So if you have questions, you can always join the YouTube channel or the Twitch channel and ask your questions in the chat for any particular member of the group tonight. Or if you have a question for everybody, if you have a comment, that will be open the entire time that we do this. And before I forget, there actually is another fun table session, and this just happened as of this morning. So again, I did these back in 2020. I've done 36 of them since, and this is number 37 tonight. I have never had a group from the pandemic era from the fun table sessions come back, but that's scheduled to happen next Sunday, the 23rd at 3 p.m. Pacific. So it was session number 15, which was like November. I just happened to see a memory come up in my social media, and I'm like, wonder what those guests are doing right now. And not only were they into the idea, we managed to make our schedules work, which has always been the most difficult part of these. So again, if you want to see what 3 guests from 2020 are doing now, one of those guests I have done a one-on-one with, or maybe a couple of them. The other 2 I have not. So it's going to be new for me. It's going to be new for everybody else. So just kind of understand that these are not one-on-one interview sessions. These are hangouts and get to know each other. And in some cases, I had at least one, maybe a couple of them, where the guests, after they did this, ended up doing like their own things. They worked on a music project together. I know the other one had their own kind of interview sessions going on. So they had one of the guests come over there. So it was really kind of cool to kind of see that kind of thing spark that way. It wasn't what I was looking for, but it's always cool when that kind of thing happens. So, all right, I'm going to introduce each guest individually, and then off we go with the conversation. So let's see, the first guest I'm going to introduce, we'll do it alphabetically. I just did a one-on-one interview with this guest very recently, with the last month or so. And she was a great guest, and we talked for a long period of time when we were live. We talked for a long period of time when we weren't live. And she, as you saw in the first clip, she has been singing with the Highland Street Country Club. I know she does a lot of other singing with other groups, and also does a lot of child entertainment. I know she just did some Christmas stuff this weekend, I believe. Maybe she'll talk about that. And she was a wonderful guest, so I'm really happy to welcome in over in Australia, which is Monday over there, Bel Martinez.
G'day from Australia. Hello, how are you?
How are you doing, Bel?
I'm good, thank you. I am in the future. Today is Monday, the 17th
There it is,
of
Monday.
November. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you could come back and join this fun table session. It's going to be a lot of fun having you here.
Thank you so much for having me again. Like, I'm super pumped for this one because you'll have some other guests too that I'm really keen to get to know. So, yeah, I'm thrilled. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, guest number 2, let's see. We did a fun table session a little over 2 years ago. We had done a one-on-one interview prior to that. Wonderful guest, has so many different things in her background, not just with music, but with baking and television and just all kinds of things. I believe her wonderful dog made an appearance during one of those interviews as well. Bean, if I remember the name, I think it was Bean. But she was a wonderful guest, and I'm so happy that she's back. And please welcome Brie Darling.
Hi there. Hey, everybody.
Hi. Hey, Brie, how are you?
I'm pretty darn good. Thank you, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you after a few years.
It is good to see you again. And
Yeah.
hi, Beth.
Hi, how are you, Brie?
I'm all right.
That's good.
It's crazy, Brie, to think that it's been, when I was looking at the live stream list, that it's been over 2 years since we last talked.
That's so bizarre to me. Yeah. I mean, time is flying by.
It is. But I'm glad you could join us. I'm so glad that you're here. And you're going to, in some ways, anchor this fun table session because you've been here before.
Okay. I'll be your anchor.
All right. And our third guest, I just had him on for a wonderful one-on-one interview as well. I saw him perform live at the end of September with Debbie Gibson when he was on the drum kit. And he's actually going right back out, I believe, for another couple shows with Debbie starting this coming week. So he was a wonderful guest. He's got a lot of good things in his background. He also is into heavy music, which I'm also into. So we found a common ground with that. Please welcome Johnny Concannon.
What's up? What's up?
Hey, Johnny, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Hey.
What's up, guys?
Hi, Johnny.
Hi.
Hey,
Hey,
happy to be
thanks.
here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's great to have you here. And this is something, again, for people that are watching this, if you have a question for any of the guests or the guests as a group, just put it into the chat for YouTube or Twitch. And again, for the guests here, if you have a question for each other or as a group question, feel free to just kind of put it out there, and off we kind of go. So I think maybe
Can I
the
do that
easiest.
now?
Yeah, absolutely. We go for it.
You just said that Johnny's into heavy music, and so are you. So what falls into that description, heavy music?
Oh man, it's pretty deep at this point. I feel like heavy metal has evolved quite a lot. Even, I would say you kind of put it to start at like the early 70s or something like that, depending on which band and who you believe. And then coming all the way to now, I mean, 55 years of evolution. It's pretty wide ranging now. So I mean, I like everything from Like I like death metal and black metal, like the really extreme versions of metal, as well as, kind of like the radio friendly versions that you would say like Breaking Benjamin or Korn or something
Well,
like that. So for me, that's kind of the world that I grew up in. But I also love Slayer and I love Led Zeppelin and I love, so I mean, I would even say Led Zeppelin falls under heavy music in a way. So
I love that.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, the first band I ever saw was Kiss in 1979. So
nice.
that
Wow.
kind of, yeah,
That's the
that'd be.
first band you ever saw live?
What was that?
That's the first band you ever saw live was Kiss?
Yeah, that's the first band I ever saw live. I was 9 years old.
Wow.
Lucky.
I don't know if you knew this, Mark, but one of Kiss was on the same record label as Fanny back in the 70s. I think either they or Fanny was the first signing to Casablanca. And so that's how we met Vinnie Poncia, who went on to produce a lot of stuff for the members of Kiss individually. And he wrote songs for them as well. As a matter of fact, I think he just got some kind of, okay, I'm going to say this and I might have it completely wrong, but Vinnie wrote the song, I Was Made for Loving You.
Oh, right.
And that's now been like, it's had 1 billion plays or something like that. I mean, how awesome is that?
It was in Moulin Rouge too.
Sorry,
movie?
say that.
Do you know the movie Moulin Rouge?
Okay, yeah.
It made it into that movie as well. Yeah, so it even made it like beyond,
Right.
just like the world of rock music, made it all the way to pop culture. Yeah.
Johnny, if you
Yeah.
know the figures better than I do, what was that? The plays or the sales or something was insane. Do you know what it was?
I actually don't know, but I would believe that it's, in terms of commercial sales, I'm sure it does a lot better than a lot of like newer artists that have hit 1 billion streams, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Because Kiss has like a buying fan base as opposed to a streaming fan base, I would imagine, but they're
Yeah.
still like crushing streaming numbers, right? So I mean, that's also that's how popular that band is. It's kind of like the Beatles
Yeah.
or something like that.
Dang, I wish Fanny would
Right.
have stuff like that. But yeah, it was awesome. And working with Vinny, because Vinny was instrumental in my career. After I did a record with him, the Rock and Roll Survivors record, he hired me for work in studios, and I got to sing with a lot of fantastic artists, including Ringo Starr. But and
Wow.
I
When
think,
when did you start your career? Like when did you get started in the business?
oh, well, I started playing in 1965, 64,
Okay.
65, something like that. And I did some recording locally in Sacramento, California. Where are you, Johnny?
I
What?
live in Indianapolis, and that's just
Okay.
kind of like where I'm from.
Okay. And then I moved down to Los Angeles. I went through the Bay Area and down to Los Angeles when I got here in 1969. And that's when I got started in I guess in my, I want to say official career, but really I think it starts from the beginning when you have your first experiences.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your time then there. Are you familiar with the artist Jinx Dawson or the band Coven?
I'm only familiar with the name, but not really
Okay.
familiar with the music.
With the music, sure. Because she was almost more like popular for her like kind of semi-celebrity or whatever. She was one of my first like touring acts that I ever got to work with, where I got to leave the U.S. And I was
Oh,
just curious. She's from where I'm from, so that's how I ended up performing
that's
with her.
awesome.
But yeah, I was just curious because she ended up out there, and I know, she is funny because she would at times you would feel like she was fabricating things, and then you would find out that it was true and be like, oh no, that's crazy. She shared a rehearsal room with the Doors and Alice Cooper. So it was like all three of their bands shared one room, and she
Oh,
ended up doing costumes for all of those bands and like Zeppelin and Stevie Nicks and a whole bunch of people.
Wow.
She has an incredible couture all black clothing collection. Yeah,
oh,
that's like one thing that's pretty fun about
I
her.
love
She
when
was
that
she was a
happens, when
yeah.
one thing can turn into so many other things. I love that. And as long as when it happens to me, as long as it's creative, I just welcome it. So that's awesome.
Sure. Yeah. I was just curious because I thought you guys might be kind of around based on when you said that you might be around the same era of like arriving in LA together. So I was just curious if you
Yeah.
knew.
You know what's funny is, and I've always been this way. I get so wrapped up in what I'm doing that especially since the early 70s, I kind of stopped seeking outside influences. And I mean, if they happened, I love them, but I learned more about my own creativity when I figured out what was going on in my head and what I wanted to say, as opposed to use somebody else's experience. Does that ring a bell with either one of you?
Sure.
Bel, does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you,
Yeah,
so then
definitely.
where do you find that you draw new musical influence from then? If you're not trying to like take in new in that way.
I got enough going on in my crazy head that I actually like quiet, so my head can just explode with stuff and like let it leak out on its own. So yeah,
Totally.
I have very little influence, but as I say that, it's not completely true, because I kind of take things in, but not just listening to other people's ideas, but everything influences me. And I don't know if that's so true for you guys, but everything that happens, whether it's musical or something I see or something I'm reminded of, like I just came up with this concept today because of something another friend, musical artist, is experiencing that made me go, okay, this is how I want to direct my new project, my new musical project. So I think those kind of influences, I think that maybe part of what I was getting at is I was in a lot of either copy bands or, bar bands or club bands for a while. And I loved playing and I love performing, but I don't know if I want to speak my own experience rather
Sure.
than, so that's what I'm kind of headed for at this point in my life, is just speaking my own voice,
Yeah.
Totally
I hope
heard.
that doesn't
Totally.
self
Yeah,
icky.
no, totally. No, that makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Well, and I was going to say, Brie, last time we talked, weren't you kind of working on, I don't know if we were trying to like write ideas down, like in a story type of situation, or maybe we were just kind of throwing ideas out. I can't remember.
But that's so funny. That's exactly what I was doing 2 years ago. I had this idea to do this project. It's just really almost kind of like a biography, an autobiography, but just my own music and my own things I want to say. And I still want to do that. But what I now want to do to add to it is, since my husband has, Dave Darling, has produced a lot of records that I've done with some of the groups that I've been in, like Boxing Gandhi's, and he did the Fanny Walk the Earth record, and then some things for my solo record, that I kind of want to take my favorite songs and add them to the compilation and make it a real life experience, because that goes back, I mean, we've been together for over 30 years and recording music the whole time. So I want to take some of those songs that I just love. One of my favorite groups that I've ever been in was a band that he and I kind of started together called Boxing Gandhi's. And I did some performances with Boxing Gandhi's that I want to put now on my, what do you call that? It's not an autobiography. Is it an anthology, or what would that be?
Yeah. Anthology, a discography.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not just, it doesn't have to be things that I wrote. Although at first, Mark, when you and I talked a couple of years ago, I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be original tunes for myself. And I think that I'll want to do maybe the first, maybe something like 10 songs that, and then another 10 songs of just my favorite things I've ever got to sing, or my favorite groups that I've sung with. I want to include some of my favorite songs that I've written off the Fanny Walk the Earth record, because that's when I super came into my own as a writer. I mean, I did before, but the groups that I worked with didn't have the notoriety that record did because of that documentary that we did.
Mm-hmm.
But enough about me. Hey, listen, I'll suck up all the air in the room if you let me. So somebody got, get in there.
Well, let's maybe we can go up to Bel for a minute, because I kind of mentioned in your intro that were you guys celebrating like the unveiling of a Christmas tree or something? I saw somewhere.
Yeah, so in Adelaide, we have, it's called the Lighting of the Giant Christmas Tree event. It's a giant Christmas tree with over 13,000 lights on it, like LED lights. And every year they have like a pre-show that's sort of headed towards the countdown to the tree lighting up. So I was very fortunate to be a part of it this year. So who I performed with, we weren't, it's not a band. We're like a collective that was just put together only for this lighting of the Christmas tree event. So I sing in a band called Cartela Finque, that mainly does bachata and reggaeton like songs, popular songs. And then within this sort of world music essay, like this banner, there's like an African band, there's also like a Brazilian one, there's another like salsa, mambo and son band called Aham. So kind of all of us in these bands, we got put together to make this one banner called World Music Essay. And we presented a song from Brazil, a song from Africa, one with the rhythms of the Dominican Republic. It was a merengue. And we finished off with a salsa version of Feliz Navidad. And that's a song that, I think worldwide and in Australia, everybody knows. And originally it was Jose Feliciano who did Feliz Navidad, but it's one that appeals to our very multicultural crowd. You've got to be very inclusive here in Australia. As at these public events, everyone is invited along. So it's not just whatever your faith is or whatever your cultural background is. At these Christmas events, you still have people, from all parts of the world, and you can sometimes clearly see with what they're wearing that they are of other faiths. And it's just nice that everyone's come together to, see a cool live show with lots of dancing and singing and some Christmas carols. And then, of course, the tree lights up. So, yeah, that's what I was doing.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, and it's also, for you being in Australia, it's kind of the end of spring, right? Over there.
Well,
Summer.
it's the end of spring, but it is a very, very extended winter at the moment.
Oh.
So, yeah, we had a very long summer. Our summer is meant to go from December to February. And then, autumn was meant to be here, but no, summer went well on into about April, little parts of May. So everything's just very, very delayed. And at the moment, it's actually quite cold. I'm not sure what in Fahrenheit it is, but here it's about 16, 17 degrees Celsius. It's raining a lot. It's quite cold. You still see people wearing their puffer jackets and, beanies. And that's weird because, we don't have that kind of climate. We're usually very, we adhere to the seasons. But, the last probably 5-6 years, everything's out of whack. Everything's late. And, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. So it wouldn't surprise me if we have somewhat of a cold Christmas, because usually Australia has a very hot Christmas. We can get up to 40 degrees Celsius for Christmases, which is really, really hot. But it might actually resemble somewhat some parts of the US with it being cooler for Christmas. Yeah. So the Christmas jumper sales, those ugly Christmas jumpers, they've actually gone up now in sales, because normally those jumpers don't sell because it's summertime and it's hot. But I've now seen lots of people wearing the Christmas jumpers, which is pretty cool. It's a different attire.
That is,
Yeah.
it seems like, is it confusing? because Christmas, I don't know what it's like for you there, but yeah, I associate Christmas with cold, but it's not
Sure.
cold there at all during Christmas, right?
No. So our like a very typical Aussie Christmas is obviously family, friends, but it's not uncommon to see our coastline full. Like everyone packs all their food and you go to the beach. Some people pack a ball or they pack their cricket set and they're playing cricket on the beach or kicking a ball. What else? Or you have a barbecue. So it's very popular to have barbecues or roast, like a roast lamb or roast chicken, any kind of roast. And it's quite common it's very summery and it's very festive. And all the commercials, on TV, for this time of year, it's not so much in the tradition of more, Western parts of the world, which is more cold and what have you. We get that a lot with, our movies and some of the video clips. It's all, jingle bells. It's very cold. I just think of Mariah Carey in her, very Christmas, jumpsuit, the reindeers. That's not Australia. Australia's quite the opposite. It's quite a summery, vibrant colours, barbecues. Fruits, we have all those summer fruits that we like to eat for dessert, pavlova, which is a very Australian dessert. So that's
that affect your Christmas carols, or do you have your own Christmas carols that sing about?
No, we tend to follow more of the popular, especially the American, like Frosty the Snowman, Let It Snow.
So is that
snowing? Yeah. So when we have our Christmas carols, we have
melting snowmen and
yeah. Yeah, we have our culture here is very much of the Christmas carols. So lots of councils or shires, they have their own Christmas carol events, which are usually free. You can pack your picnic rug and take something to eat. You take the family along and you sit down and the stage will have lots of performers and they're usually, jingle bells, Santa Claus is coming to town, all the traditional Christmas songs that you guys sing, that's what we sing. And it's very much part of our culture to sing these songs, even though geographically it doesn't align with our Christmas.
Yeah, I guess it becomes its own thing, which is so interesting.
Yeah, which some of us, it makes us yearn to, if you've never experienced a winter wonderland or a winter Christmas like you guys do, someone like me, I'm actually quite curious to have a cold Christmas. I would love to see that, experience that.
You have cold winters though, right?
Cold, but I think you guys still, you beat us in terms of how cold it can get. You guys will definitely, I think from the West Coast to the East Coast, you guys have got some really grueling winters compared to our Australian winters.
Okay, and this might be really silly, but does it snow there ever?
Yes.
Okay.
So only in certain regions. So in the state of Victoria, there is the Victorian Alpine Valley region. And we have some mountains there and ski fields, and it does snow there, but only very much up at the top. So not so much down where, the towns are. It's just more on the mountains. So we've got snow there. And in New South Wales, that's another state. We also get some snow there at Mount Kosciuszko and Perisher-Smiggins and these different places that are also some very prominent skiing areas. So, but only specifically in those regional towns, I guess that's where the snow would be. But otherwise, no, we don't get snow.
So you can sneak out a winter wonderland if you want to do some traveling.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have, and I love it because I'm a savage and I love the cold weather.
Me
I
too.
like snow angels. Like, I love it. Yeah, I really, really I think it's because for us it's so hard. Like I had to drive, it was about 8 to 10 hours from where I live to get to the snow.
Where are you?
So I'm in Adelaide, South Australia. We don't get snow here. So I had to do like a pilgrimage all the way from one state to another state to actually get to experience the snow. So for me, it's such a novelty. While I'm there, I'm like, yes, like let it be colder,
Where is Adelaide in the shape of the continent? Because I've
right?
been
So
on tour,
Australia looks kind
remember?
of like, hold on, I can't really do it upside down. It works sort of more like if it's sort of like this, we're
Okay.
more down here. So Sydney and Melbourne are over here. Tasmania's a little, island just off here. We're here where we call it the Great Australian Bight. It looks like,
you're on the East Coast.
no, it's south.
Oh,
South and more
Yes.
west.
Yeah,
Oh,
like south. Yeah,
it's southwest?
yeah.
Okay.
So South Australia is definitely like down this point here. Up here, you've got like Darwin, and over here, you've got Perth. So I should have had like a map. I don't have a
Australia.
map of Australia on me. Yeah.
I mean, I've been to Australia like a lot.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of it I don't. I was on tour. I went there on tour with Robert Palmer, and
Ooh,
so many different places. But I don't, when I'm on tour, I don't know exactly where I am. I just know I'm at a venue.
right.
In a group,
Sure.
and there's no real experience of traveling. I think when
Yeah.
we flew everywhere. So
For sure. And that's usually the Australia tour experience is fly every day for most bands anyway. You fly,
Yeah.
it's like bands will fly in, and because the drives are sort of right, like unpredictable, like the highways between the major cities could be a little like potentially sketchy, and if something happens, like you blow a tire, you could be hours away
Yeah.
from somebody coming to get you fixed. So then you're just going to miss shows. So
did
it
you
ends up being
Yeah.
safer for the promoter to just fly you every day, which is grueling.
Yes.
done shows in Australia?
Yeah, I've been there 2 times.
Right. What cities did you play in?
I did, I did the same ones each time. It was Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane.
Right.
Woo, woo.
Yeah,
Go Adelaide.
that's
It's so
right.
cool that
Yeah,
you actually came to Adelaide because
yeah,
although we are a major city, we're not one of the more prominent, bigger cities like Perth. Maybe not Perth, but Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne.
Right.
And when there's a tour that comes down, a lot of the times we get missed out on, and it's actually quite sad.
yeah,
And then that's why someone like me, I'll travel if I'm that interested in the artist. I'll make the pilgrimage. So I usually go to either Sydney or Melbourne to
yeah.
see artists that, for whatever reason, they skip Adelaide or Perth. So yeah, but it really kills me when they skip Adelaide, but then they go to like our Australian Capital Territory, which is Canberra, and it's like,
Yeah,
no,
I've
who's
seen
in
that.
Canberra? Only the politicians and Parliament House. Like, why are
The
you
promoter,
going to Canberra and not Adelaide?
the
Right.
promoter's from there.
Yeah, I get a bit salty about that, but anyways, it's really cool that you were able to make it to Adelaide. So
Who are
yeah.
you?
I think I even had a day off there the last time. It was like we had the day off before the show, so I think we took like the trolleys and we went down to the beach. We hung out for
Oh,
a
I get the
while and
tram.
yeah,
Yeah,
the tram. Yeah, and took that
yeah.
down and hung out for a while and walked around. I think some dudes went shopping and then I
Rundle
think
Mall.
yeah, they went to the
It's
mall
like a
and then
big street.
I just remember going and eating. We went and ate somewhere and ate so much food that I like basically went back to my hotel room and passed out.
Who were you on tour with?
Last year it was a band called Atreyu was who I was with.
Right.
These guys.
Awesome.
Ah,
They're
cool.
they're like a rock metal band, and they're like what you would consider, so for like heavy music designation, right? It's all subgenre now. It's metalcore is the genre, but they weren't really. They were kind of like in that early, proto kind of band where they kind of helped to invent and push along a genre, and then sort of had the thing that happens to a lot of bands like that, where the second wave comes and sort of like perfects what they've done, and they actually go further. So Atreyu had sort of like a weird halted career, and then they had a comeback, and then it's their drummer was their singer, is Brandon Saller, and in 2019 I was his drum tech, and
Wow.
then years went by, I teched again for them, I worked on a song with them, and then their drummer needed like some family time essentially, and took the year off right before they were supposed to go to Australia, and I got a text
Wow.
like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks before, and they were like, "Hey, can you learn the tunes and come with us?" Because for what they needed somebody who doesn't just do just a player. You also have to kind of like be a tech, and
Oh,
at least for
right.
me
Yeah.
to basically be in charge of the show operation. Call it like the musical director, which is like what I do for Debbie Gibson. It's basically the same job.
How was
Right.
it for you? Like have to, given what did you say, about a week and a half to know the tunes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pressure.
yeah. That's not the first time I've had to do that in my career either. The first like major tour was like that too, and the music was crazy hard. The first band I came to Australia with is a band called The Contortionist, and it's like progressive, some kind of death metal, kind of ambient, kind of pop rock, but it's very difficult music. Like it's very, 10-minute songs and like that kind of thing, where lots of time signatures and difficult,
Wow.
nerdy stuff going on, which was a really great challenge. We got to actually go there and headline over a band that we used to listen to in high school. Like one of our favorite bands was like
Wow.
opening for us, which was really odd. And learning that music was crazy difficult. But the Atreyu set for me was easier to learn. One, because I was more familiar with the music. I grew up listening to the band and like playing, a good chunk of the music like in my parents' basement for years. But I also had toured with them many times, so I sort of knew the vibe that they were after. And I know that for them, it's not so much about like recreating the record; it's more about recreating the energy of the record. So it's not like a note for note kind of situation where the other gig that I was on, it's like a math, you have to, everybody has to line up exactly right, or else the whole
Cool.
thing falls apart. So you really have to play,
Yeah.
it's 6 guys in this band and everything's so interconnected that if one person really falls off, it's a bad time. So that was way more
Challenging.
pressure, way more challenging, way more pressure, but and a very short time turnaround as well. But I kind of tend to thrive a little bit under pressure, where like I tend to do better the closer I get to the deadline, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, it kind of just works for me.
yeah. Pressure is good for me, but it also just freaks me the heck out.
Oh,
Like,
sure, of course, yeah. No, I'm
I-
like an anxious wreck, like not sleeping well and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it done though. It's gonna be done, and it'll be, the best version of myself that I can bring. Like, because that's really what it is I can't really stand to not show up. And for me, I've always been a side musician, never like in anybody's like one
Right.
project, kind of always going from thing to thing. And so there's that aspect of the chameleon, if that makes any sense, of
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like I do have my own sound, but when I go and I play with this artist, I put my preference a little bit on the back burner, and I just
Right.
do what I know is going to be right to make their music sound like their music.
I was
And
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
at that.
yeah.
I always did better if somebody just liked what I did and I could bring it to that. And I was in a similar situation with Robert Palmer. They called me like just a few days before their percussionist left. And I was mostly a drummer before, and I had done some percussion gigs, but they hired me as an electronic drummer. And I said,
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh.
I had never used them before. After I hung, but they told me I was going to be playing electronic drums and regular drum set, which was awesome for me, and percussion. And
Were you using like Simmons pads at that time? Is that what you were using?
I don't remember. This is back in '89. It was some kind of square pad with, and
Multiple pads on like one
yeah,
unit? Okay.
And what I did is I said, sure, yeah. And because I like to say yes to everything and then panic after I hang up the phone.
Of course.
So I called a friend of mine and I said, help, man, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you come over and teach me how to use this pad? And it's so long ago, I don't remember. I guess I bought one and he basically showed me how to use it. But Robert was so cool. I think he was maybe one of the most musicians that I got to work with. And he would just tell me what he wanted. Like one time he wanted me to play this weird 13/4 beat against something he was doing. And I didn't really know how to do that as a technician. I just learned what the parts were and played
How
it.
it felt.
And I had to close my ears to what was going on or I'd get lost.
Yeah, that's the feeling aspect. I totally know what you're talking. There were some moments in that first band I was talking about where it's like 17/16 and then it goes to 3/4 and then it's back to 17/16 3/4 and then the third time it's 19/16 and then it's 3/4 and then it's back. It's like this loop, and then you have to make it feel like it's 4/4 inside of that. So the snare drum has to keep on 2 and 4, and so it's moving against the bar line, right? So it's like just keeping track of it. It's like if I sit here and try to count this, I'm just going to go crazy.
Right.
And so you almost just have to like sit with it for long enough that you can just like internalize it, I guess.
Yeah, I got it down enough that I owned it, and I couldn't listen to where they were in their 4 because I just had to do what I was doing against what they were doing. And I mean, I did listen because it had to feel good with what they were doing, but I just couldn't start getting involved in that other time signature or I would lose what I was doing. But it was one of the coolest things to learn how to do because that was not my forte, but I was really proud of it.
It's fun to get pushed out of your zone. And I feel like especially when it's like a last minute ask to do something that's super out, it makes like a pretty long lasting impression on yourself. But I think it also leaves a huge impression on the people you work with because like they know like your the situation and that you kind of came in and either made it or broke it, right? So it's like you're memorable either way, but hopefully for the positive.
Yeah, I had to do an audition once for Lindsey Buckingham.
Ooh.
And I just thought I knew the songs. I was just going to play what I knew. This was for a drum audition and they weren't the parts that were on the record, so they had me out of there.
Oh,
But it's okay because that's I think that I like working with original bands more because you get to bring what either you figure out or you're feeling or or what you want to do. Because I am not the technician you are.
Well, I guess it's kind of like when you're playing music with somebody else, you're just going to do what feels natural to you.
Right.
So like the way you hear an odd time and the way I hear it and we count it is probably entirely different, you know? So we're going to still solve the same problem, get to the end. Like, so it's like, it kind of, I think the way you get there almost like defines the genre though, like how much subdivision you're adding or how much you're thinking in a big meter would make it more pop or something like that. So it's like, I don't know. I guess that's kind of how I break it down is like, what's the formula of the music is going to determine like my input, I guess, as much as how much of me is going to go into the music.
Right.
Like on a Debbie Gibson show, there's not a lot of me because it's more of a drum machine re-performing, if that makes sense. It's a lot of programmed beats from that time. So like in that regard, I can't really like, say that again?
Yeah.
Do you find it hard to recreate drum machine parts?
No, it's funny because I actually, when I was a kid, and I still do, I love Eurodance music. So I kind of got into like music that was very dance music at the time. And so I would like to play along, which is, essentially neo disco, right? But it's so programmed where you're doing the dot, 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 like the EDM build kind of thing. But I was a metal drummer and I figured out I could also do it with my feet. I could do the with my feet and not just have to use only my hands, which then I could do the cymbals, right? And so when I would play that style of music, the DJs were like, you actually sound like, you listen to this music, not like the other drummers that come here and just play like a rock drummer over it, You know what I mean? So it was like I kind of like had that ear for it, I guess, just because I was listening to that music.
Yeah.
And there's this amazing drummer named Jojo Meyer, who's a Swiss drummer. But he's lived in New York for a long time, and he kind of invented the modern like rave. It's like rave jazz essentially, where it's like drum and bass, jungle, and kind of like turntablist style music from like the mid '90s performed by live musicians. So it'd be like Tim LaFave is like a bass player who played in that style. Mark Juliana is another drummer in that style. And so those were some drummers that I was really heavily influenced by. So I spent a long time kind of practicing these like flattened out bebop grooves. And you know the groove that I'm talking about. They're all just like beatbox. It's like like that groove, but then
Yeah.
sped up. Right. And so trying to play that as a drummer becomes like this massive, technical hurdle because it's like you're basically performing a loop, right?
Right.
So you're
Yeah.
trying to be as tight as this loop was, and
Yeah.
so I was obsessed with that. As
I,
a, I was,
yeah.
I was involved in rudimental drumming, and there's this level of perfectionism that came from that world that I was able to kind of bring to the drum kit
Oh,
and like really zone in on that style. So yeah, for me, recreating like the drum machine beats almost feels natural because I like the music.
that's very cool because a lot of drummers, when drum machines became popular, were like left and
Yeah, they were
quit.
scared.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I actually love drum machines. I always
Mm.
have. There's a sound and there's a feel or a non-feel, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
that
for sure.
I just find so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like as a drummer to play with it, it's like a really great percussionist. It's like you're playing with the world's greatest, most perfect timed percussionist. So there's a groove, even to, like you said, like a loop, a feel loop or a no feel loop. Either way, if it's that robotic and blocky, like that is a feel. So trying to then do,
Yeah.
for me, it's like I listen to something like Nine Inch Nails, and like one of my favorite drummers is Josh Freese. And when he
Okay.
would, and he's back in Nine Inch Nails, which is awesome. But like watching him play that, he plays very differently than when he was playing in like the Foo Fighters. And I
Right.
think of that in terms of drumming motion, to get nerdy for a second, as a vertical motion as opposed to a horizontal motion. And
Right.
like when I'm thinking of swing or like rock and roll, I'm thinking more horizontally, and
Right.
as opposed to dance music where I'm thinking more vertical time.
Right.
And
I
I think that probably applies to other instruments, but
Yeah, I love I guess it's the lack of humanness because there's not as much when you're talking about vertical and horizontal, or it's so kind of there's no soft ends
mm,
or soft beginnings. It's just all
no.
rigid, and I just love that rigidity. And I don't find a lot of drummers who can do that, or maybe
Mm.
don't realize it, but it's pretty cool. No, I can't do it unless it's super, super simple. But I really respect it. You can't respect a machine. I respect the drummer who can read,
Yeah.
Try to recreate it as close,
yeah,
but I think at the same time that there's this other element there where like you aren't the machine, right? So then you almost have to then like lean into your own imperfections. Like you have to also let that be part of it. Because
right,
if you try to actually do the total drum machine thing, it actually ends up being kind of lame because there's something missing because
yeah,
you are there in the
Yeah.
room and it doesn't sound like the drum machine because
right,
there's cymbals washing around and like all this stuff. So then you're trying to then figure out like what's that other bit of percentage, like how much human can I add to this before it to now starts to feel not like dance music
right.
anymore. Right. So there's like this, it's like this, the finest little potion that you're trying to like curate there at the very, the 99th, 100th percent, where at least for me, where I'm trying to clean a show and get it to the point where I'm like, this is really hitting correctly, like the way that I was intending for it. Cause I record my rehearsing so that I kind of
Got
know how
that.
close I am.
Have you gotten to use that on any of the tours that you've gone on, or any of the acts that you've played with?
Like performing like drum machine kind of
Yeah,
vibes. Yeah, almost all of them really, because like the Debbie show is it's a lot of tracks in her show because it's not a big band that
right,
travels with her. So there's track bass, for example. So
right.
that gives you an idea of kind of like how centered I have to be with the click tracks for her show, because
Right.
everything is right down the middle. There's not like that thing where sometimes like, the band is leaning against the click a little forward or a little behind or something like that. It's dead center
Right.
all the
Right.
time. So I'm finding
It's
myself trying to stay, right there all the time. So that's
right.
like the big challenge of the show, is how do you create energy and momentum without the ability to push and pull, because
Right.
you have this really unforgiving thing. So it's a different dynamic. And
Yeah.
so I've had to learn how to approach that, I think. But then, playing in a metal band, sort of like the bar of entry of like being in a metal band is like technical perfection. That is kind of part of the thing. So like if dudes are showing up and they're blowing it, people are going to be like, get it together. Somebody's going to tell
Yeah.
you that, and it's kind of like by consensus, but for the most part, most bands will have like one person who's kind of like the point. It's usually a guitar player who's writing the music, or a drummer for the most part, who's kind of calling people out to be like, no, that's not tight. That's not good, because you have to be, because those parts have to just be like, so locked.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Take apart that much and being able to do that and recreate those sounds, and to know when you're getting it done, and to
Mm.
appreciate, both styles.
Yeah. But you know what I also think is funny is like all this music, even hip hop and stuff like that, it comes from, it's sample based, right? So like it came from drum breaks of classic drummers who weren't playing to a click, right?
Right.
And then it's been like forced, DJs have forced things to conform, and then we sample and reproduce things, and we use timelines, right? But these would have been ripped off of a vinyl, stored on an MPC, played back through another tape machine, distorted through another set of compressors. Like it's been processed so many
Right.
times that it's almost like, unrecognizable, but we are still like hearing the feel of Clyde Stubblefield or John Bonham when we hear a boom, pa, boom, da, boom, boom, pa. Like that groove is one of the two of them, and their feel, it's not so straight,
Right. Right.
so it's kind of like, I don't know. There's almost some of it is like inhuman, like a Jay Dilla feel, or D'Angelo, RIP, like he just passed. The D'Angelo feel is such a unique swing, where
Right.
it doesn't
Right.
really have a pocket that is that typical conforming pocket, but it is to a click, and it is
Right.
locked. So I just think that there's cool ways as a musician to use time that doesn't have to necessarily be so linear, but like most modern music does kind of require it, unfortunately.
So,
In that way.
question: How do you find listening to? What do you do to be able to listen to a click and not be bombarded with your own sound that you're making, so that you can hear it? This is just like kind of a recording thing I'm asking you.
Oh, like how you're like a monitoring situation, how I'm monitoring?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my setup, at least here in the room that I'm in, I have a like an analog mixer next to me on my desk, where I have like a monitor, and that goes to a cable like through the wall, and then my desk is on the other side, so it's not so I have more room in here basically to work and set mics and things like that. And
But
everything's
you're
coming
here.
out of lot. Yeah, I record myself. So the way I have it set up, I have a monitor, keyboard, mouse just right next to me that is just mirroring I use Logic Audio for my recording. And so that computer I'm pointing behind me. It's actually over there. But
Do you have a free speaker, or do you have your click in your headphones?
yeah, it's all headphones. So because if I were doing click live in the room, then you're going to just be,
Oh yeah.
recording the click as well. So yeah,
So
everything comes to headphones, either in ears or, over ear cans, whichever I'm
yeah, I
using.
have never been able to hear the click. I can play to a click if I hear it, but I usually can't hear it over the live drums in the room recording.
So something that is at least for me, like when I started, like my mother was never into the idea that she didn't love that I wanted to be a drummer. But she was very
Oh,
supportive, right? Of course, she was supportive, but she of course
he
is
was
like any
worried
parent,
about
is
you.
like, yeah, of course, So she came into the room one time, and I was of course playing like, a band called AFI, like a really loud, rowdy punk rock band. And I had volume turned up all the way on my like Sony Walkman, CD player, all the way up. And mom comes into the room and I like take the headphones off and she can just hear it plain as day, like across the room. And she was like, "You're going to be deaf in 0 years. Like you're going to be deaf by the end of this year and you're 13 years old." Like, so the only piece of drum gear my mom ever bought for me was a pair of studio headphones, like 30 dB reduction,
Cool.
studio grade headphones. So like she saved my hearing from day one. So
Yeah.
I've always worn hearing protection. So I wear in-ear monitors when I play live. And if the band isn't playing with in-ear monitors, I still wear them even if I'm not plugged into anything, just because I'm kind of used to the sound of the diffused drums, like
Yeah.
through some sort of hearing protection. It almost, for me, is almost a bit uncomfortable. So I don't even tune my drums. I tune my drums in the same environment that I'm going to be listening to them, because I know what it is supposed to sound like there, which is kind of a weird thing.
Wow.
I do, of course, take them out and check the environment, make sure that I'm not doing something crazy that I can't perceive.
Right.
But yeah, so as far as I don't monitor drums in my ears though. So like the drums are right
Right.
there. They're so loud.
I
So some drummers make that mistake. I think they also put the drums in their cans and it's like loud on top of loud. And then you've got to turn other stuff up so loud. And so drummers are always like, "I can't hear anything." It's like, dude, the drums are right there. They're like 100 dB right next to you,
I never have my drums in my monitors or in my headphones, because
Are you using like an open back headphone?
get away from them so that I can hear a click or hear my voice like live.
Right.
I discovered this on my last tour when I did in-ears. I could sing so much better. I could sing and I never got hoarse on the whole tour because I wasn't fighting that sound.
Yeah, you're
That's a
not
good
over
tip.
pushing.
So by using in-ear monitors?
Yeah. Do you use them at all, Bel?
Well, I'm more old school only because I've always, been singing with, fold back in front of you. But one of the challenges when I have worked with the Highland Street Country Club, every single member now, all of the musicians, all the singers, they're all going through in-ear monitors. And I find that that can be quite challenging to have them like in your ear, firstly for them to even fit and sit properly, because they're like the only band that I ever use in-ear monitors with. So there's no other band that I work with that uses them. They're the only band who you must have them in. But in saying that, because I didn't have like my own or custom made ones, a lot of the videos that I'm in, I'm actually like, apart from the challenge that, they're recording, you're with the band, you've got all these things going on in your mind. A lot of my worry when I'm actually getting recorded is that I can feel them sort of coming out. And then you've got to wait for a moment in the song where, because if they do pop out, you're really left in the dark. And it has happened on a video where they've come out and I've blindedly, because the song was recording well, and you don't want to then be like, "Sorry, cut, guys, my innie came out." You just keep going. But once it's out, you realize you can't. The only thing I could hear was a bit of the drums, and that's it. I can't hear the keys. I can't hear the guitar because everybody is plugged into the in-ear monitors. So you're kind of walking in the dark there. But I thought, do I call it and go, no, cut, or do you just keep going and hope for the best?
But it's only for seconds, right? Until you plug it back into your head.
Well, because Highland Street, once they start recording, they really would hope for, one take if possible. They're recording, maybe 4 or 5 songs in a one session. So, they're not going to be there all day for you because, your in-ear is not sitting properly or you've missed your spot or whatever. They would hope that you can just get in there, do one take, and then that's the one that they post to YouTube. Right. But I'm trying, I've now got some and I'm going to see if I can start to use them better. But it's a good tip to know that you as a drummer, like, you're banging away and you're also singing, and that if you've got them in there and then you're not hoarse, afterwards from using them, that's good, because I do get a lot of vocal issues that I'm currently seeing a specialist for. And that's mainly because if I think that if I can't hear myself, or if the band lineup is where the drummer's directly behind me,
Yeah.
and all night I've got bang, 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 and then next to me I've got a live saxophonist right next to me, and then surrounding me are all the other musicians' amps, that's just all noise. It's just loud, 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 which means that when I'm singing, I naturally push harder because I think that no one else in the crowd can hear me.
Right.
And then my voice is trashed for, it's sometimes
Days.
silly. It can go for 2 to 3 weeks that my voice is hoarse, like completely out. And then I've got to do days of silence, vocal hygiene, all these different things to then try and bring my voice back to how you hear it now, not sounding, like it's weathered and
Yeah.
all croaky. So,
I've
I've got to be careful.
where I've just trashed myself because I'm trying to hear myself over either my drums or the band.
Yeah.
The first time I ever used in-ears was on a tour where I played drums on a couple of songs, but I was mostly singing. And I had never used them, and I didn't think I'd like the concept.
Yeah.
Doing that whole tour, never getting hoarse, because I'm
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm real pushy, and I can get really loud, and so I get really loud so I can hear myself from here to here. But when you have to do that, oh my God, it just I don't think I'd ever go out again without in-ears.
Without them, yeah.
And
I think it's what you're used to, if you're used to them now and it's better for you, I'm going to have to, whether I like it or not, start using them, and just for the longevity of my voice, because I've been using my voice now professionally for 35 years. So it's not just a, thing here or there. Like, I'm always, not just that I'm using my voice for gigs and performances on weekends, like during the week, the work that I do, I have to use my voice. Like, I need to speak to clients. And so my voice really is everything to me. It's my livelihood. So, and I would hope to use my voice for another 35 years, or plus. So, yeah, I'm going to have to step out of my comfort zone and start, wearing the in-ear monitors.
They work well.
And maybe it's the best thing ever. I'll be like, oh, my gosh, where have you been all my life? You should have been in here all along.
That's how I felt. If I ever get the opportunity to go out and do that again, I would definitely want in-ears. And I just used, general ones. They weren't self-fitted or anything, but I just loved them. Yeah.
Cool.
So good luck
out
for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
One of my jobs over the years has been like a monitor tech. I've done a lot of it. So I've worked with a lot of different in-ear monitors, like brands and models, et cetera. And I would say, like, across the board, for most vocalists, the biggest challenge is like the proximity effect, right? As like the buds are like in your ear, if you're wearing earbuds, you know how you can like hear yourself resonating in your skull, which is like a little bit different from, hearing it without them on. Like, there's a pressure. That's probably like the hardest thing to get over, because there's this sort of like honkiness that you almost have to just get used to how you sound.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting. Like, when I'm singing without headphones on, I tend to be sharp, which is just, but a lot of people, when they're singing in headphones, tend to be flat. So like a lot of times, like in a studio session, if the singer is singing flat, I'll have them take one ear off and they hear themselves, and all of a sudden their pitch comes back. And it's almost like you're hearing yourself here, so you don't project as hard, right? So like that is something that I've noticed with some singers, is that they tend to be flat when they first start using in-ear monitors, because they're no longer pushing the same way if they're like self-conscious about it. And the other thing is you mentioned that you use like the general ones. I mean, I've seen people use the $3,000 and $4,000 model Jerry Harvey, the JH Audio ones, and watch them fail almost immediately. I have a pair of the $99 Shure SE215s that I have
Okay.
been using for like 7 years, and I've replaced the cable once, and they just keep working, you know.
Great.
If you just have to keep them clean is like the biggest
Okay.
issue, because you got all the earwax buildup. So
Sure.
it comes with a little tool. As long as you're regularly scraping it out and like wiping it down with alcohol swabs so it doesn't get like
Okay.
totally gross,
Yeah, good tip.
they last. And like for vocalists, you don't need all of the extended low end, and that's why all the really expensive ones that people try to convince you to buy, they just give you a ton of low end, which is maybe cool if you're a bass player and you really need to
Sure.
hear your pitch like down to 40 hertz or something like that. But like even for me as a drummer, I want it to be punchy. So I don't
Yes.
really want a ton of low end. So for me, the cheap ones work great. And
Okay.
some people have issues with the fit, right? Like, kind of get like you were talking
Me.
about them popping
I've got
out.
little holes. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to an audiologist, they can make you custom tips for
Yes.
universal fit. So they'll make
Yeah.
a universal fit molded tip. So you don't have to necessarily get the
Okay.
molded plastic headphones, which are really
Okay.
expensive. And then if you
Yes.
step on them, they're gone, right? If you just have a rubber tip and you step on it, you just replace the headphone and you still have your
Sure.
very expensive in-ear. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think those would be my like bits from doing that for several years. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, good.
That's
I'll look
awesome.
into that.
I'm calling you, Johnny, just for some ideas on what to get if the need ever
Yeah.
presents itself.
Sure. Shoot me a message anytime. I'm happy to help.
Okay, awesome.
I had a basic question based on this whole discussion for all three of you, because Brie, you're talking about when you did like an audition with Lindsey Buckingham and it didn't, go out work the way you wanted it to. For all three of you, do you ever get used to not getting the gig? Is it ever like you
In what way do you mean, Mark, not
like
getting the
so
gig?
so if you're auditioning for something, if it's a band, solo artist, one-off gig, and you're just not the right person, they go with somebody else. You guys have been in the industry for a long period of time. Does it ever get to the point where you're like, okay, fine, I just move on to the next thing, or is there some small part of you that's still kind of like, oh shit, I wish I would have got that? Does it ever get
Yeah.
better?
I'm really not very good at auditioning. I like it when somebody knows what I do and asks me to come work with them. I feel better about that. That one didn't bother me. Maybe they're all different, okay, this is kind of behind the scenes, but I think the reason I got called for that gig is because he was putting together like a band of women players, some really awesome players that I already knew. And they hit him to me. And the way he worked was not my style. I'm way too wired to sit around and wait on people and just hang out. I like to get to work. So that didn't bother me that I didn't get that gig because it didn't feel like it would have been a good fit. But I'm sure there's been other gigs that I really wanted to get. There's probably been so many that either worked out or didn't that I don't think I have a feeling about that one way or the other. I did want to audition for Kiss when they needed a new drummer.
Okay.
But Gene Simmons told me, he said, like, listen, man, look at the kind of band we are, we cater to, like girls. They're not going to want to see a girl. And you know what? He was right. And that didn't bother me. And I don't even know if I really wanted the gig. I just wanted to try out for it,
Yeah.
But I felt that he was correct in that. But
Brie, let me stay with that real quick before we go to Johnny and Belle about my question. If you had gotten that gig with Kiss, that was probably back in the makeup days, what character would you have
aren't
been?
they still doing makeup?
They put it back on, but back when you're talking, I'm assuming that Peter had left and they probably didn't have Eric Carr back in or something like that. So
No.
what makeup character do you think you would have been?
Oh, I never thought about it. But hey, I love makeup. I would have been something cool.
Okay. Maybe something to do with baking. It would have been like a foreshadowing of what you also do.
Well, that was, when you say baking, I'm not a baker. I did these fantastic cakes because I wanted to design and build them and create something. It was not about the baking at all. I did figure out later, after I got started with it, that, you know, you could do a triple whammy. They not only looked good on the outside, but they looked good on the inside, and they tasted freaking great. But that was just kind of something learned. I did it for the art.
Okay, that makes
Cool.
sense.
I'm not a baker.
You're an artist.
Yeah, I can bake a cake to make into art, but you know, I mean, there's bakers. That's what I'm saying. There are bakers, and I ain't that.
Okay, well, thanks for clearing that up. And also,
I just don't ever want to take credit for something that I don't do.
yeah, no, I get it. But Johnny and Belle, going back to that question, when you've either auditioned or again, maybe there's a gig that you're really hoping that you're going to get and didn't go your way, does it get better the more, or you know, times that it doesn't work out for you, or you're like the same time every time it happens?
Yeah, well, for me, you know, I do lots of stuff with the Hindley Street Country Club, you know, more in the video clips more than anything. I was very fortunate to go on a national tour with them in 2023. And I might have, you know, it was never said, oh, now you're going to be a part of the band because you've now gone on tour with them. But deep down in my heart, you know, I was always, I mean, regardless of what, you know, band or show it is, I always give 150%. But I was always trying to just showcase, you know, the best that I could do in the hopes that, you know, I would be made permanent as more of a core member, not just, you know, special guests with the Hindley Street Country Club, but more as a permanent person. So then when, you know, 2024 was going to come around for, you know, a whole new year for them and more touring, I was told that I would not be touring with them anymore. I'm not going to lie, that, you know, that hurt, because maybe I was a little bit silly, you know, I had my hopes up a bit, thought, you know, if I've done, you know, a national tour already, you know, I know how to work both on stage and behind the scenes with, you know, all the band members. They're all quirky, they're all got different personalities. I felt that the band could also do with a bit more female energy. There's just so many of them at that point. There was like 10 male musicians and you'd only have one female. By bringing in another female, it does change the energy slightly of the band by having, you know, more than one female in this very big male-dominated band. So, yeah, I won't say that I wasn't, you know, upset about that. You know, I accept it and respect it the way it is. They have their core members, and they're the ones that do the national tours and now international when they went to the US and they're going to go to the UK next year and all over. That's why in my previous interview with you, Mark, I said that I am ready. My passport is ready to go. My suitcase is empty. I can pack that now. I've got all the outfits ready. I am very available, and, you know, they know that I am here. I'm available, and whenever they need me to go for a recording or where they need me to go on tour with them, I am absolutely available, because it is a great opportunity and also a challenge to be a part of something like what they do. So, and for someone like myself who's been doing this for so long and with lots of different genres and different bands, because Hindley Street is such a high caliber band, and with what they do is so, you know, unique to everything else that I do. When you were, like Johnny, when you were speaking before about your challenges and what have you, it's good to get sometimes out of your comfort zone. And so when I work with the Hindley Street Country Club, it is a challenge in many, many, many ways. So that's refreshing. It's refreshing to be sometimes pushed to the deep end and work with such professional and high caliber musicians like they are. So, yeah, so that would be, I guess, one of my more recent, you know, I guess, disappointments from not
Heartbreaks.
being, my little heartbreak that I thought, oh, surely they'll keep me because, why not have another girl in the band? But, and that's just how it is. You just go, oh, well, they'll call me when they need me. But in the meantime, I'm still not sort of sitting here, sulking and just waiting by the phone. I'm doing other stuff that keeps me busy. So that's okay. It's the way it is. It's all right. All good. Yeah.
Well, I think I have an interesting personality in the sense that like for me, like rejection is gonna pretty much just turn me into like a machine that's going to then conquer that, whatever that was, right? So for me, on one hand, it's like being met with rejection in that way is almost like motivating, right? So it turns into the motivation to like improve for whatever reason that would have happened. But then on the other hand, I have to say I don't think I've been rejected. I'm trying to remember. Like I'm not sure that I've ever not gotten an audition either. But that's because I'm like a preparation person. So like I will usually show up and be prepared. And I find that most musical auditions just come down to, did you actually learn the music? And like it's crazy to me how many people show up and just don't know the music. That's like or depending on what the music is, like are playing the song their way in the sense that it's like, well, you're trying to sound like you're in their thing, right? So I guess a lot of my experience has been in this sort of like always a side person. So for me the rejection would be like when I stop working with an artist, it's never been because of like performance or something like that, but it's been, the band I played in last year, I played with them for, 11 months or something like that. And the whole time you get to tell people, and they're like, oh, what band are you? And you get to say, I'm the drummer in Atreyu, which feels really cool, right? And then at the end, but the whole time I know their drummer's just basically taking like a year off. He needs to deal with his new kids, and that's why he was off the road. And so I knew that it had like a shelf life, I guess you could say, for the gig. But even at the end, it's a little bit like, dang, because it's almost like you're in a relationship with these people. Every band, it becomes kind of like a relationship of some sort. So it's kind of like breaking up in a way where you're like, oh, I guess we could still be friends, but it's always like a little bit weird. It's always a little bit weird afterwards. Like it's never quite the same. And like I don't really know how to describe that, but like that's definitely something I've experienced. So like I would say for the most part, like original bands that I don't play in anymore, like being around the people that I played in those original bands with is a little bit awkward because for the most part, they remember that for me, toward the end of any time I would be in an original band, the reason I would leave is because I didn't feel like everybody else was really keeping up. And so they would always think that I was like an asshole for that, because I would just be like, I mean, guys, like we just have to do better. Like we can't start a song and then you stop because you mess up the lyrics in the first verse. Like if you do that again, I quit. And then I remember packing up my cymbals in the middle of him restarting the song, and he turns around, he's like, "Why didn't you come in?" I was like, "I'm going home. I told you we're not." You know what I mean? So like maybe I wasn't. I'm not really sure, but like I guess for me music has always been something that I like took really seriously. So yeah, I mean, taking the rejection was hard, but in the same sense, like the rejection has always been motivating for me. So
that's
I guess
great.
It's got the up and the down. Yeah.
Well, I'll change my answer. I don't think I've ever been rejected from a gig I really wanted.
Yeah. Isn't that funny though? Like there's some gigs that people will offer and you're sort of like,
I go.
And it's like,
I go anyway because I like to check it out. I like to meet what's going on, meet people to see what's going on. But I don't really, really want the gig. I've done that.
right.
And I don't even, some of them, maybe they were offered to me and maybe not. But if there's something I really want, I think I've gotten it. Like the thing with Kiss. I don't know if that's something I really wanted to do. I just probably wanted to see it good.
I'm kind of with you though. I don't think I've ever really been to like a real cattle call audition. Like for the most part, people call me because they already know. Like they kind of just know that my reputation has been, I guess, to be a fixer, basically. So like you can call me and come and fix whatever is going wrong with your show. Essentially, Yeah, I'm a fixer. I'm a drum fixer. I've had to do that in the studio, like go in and like play somebody else's parts again, something like
Right.
that. Like the drummer for the band came in and just didn't really get the take.
Right.
And so then while they're on lunch, I like come in and then the producer has me play and then I like leave before they come back from lunch.
Really?
I've done
That's
that
bizarre.
before. Yeah, that's very bizarre, especially when they don't record to a click. That's almost impossible. But
Yeah. Wait, so you
Yeah.
record just the drum track, or do you record with the rest of the music that was recorded?
yeah, so basically they just like they've recorded the song. It's either they've gotten down to mixing or they're like done with production and just it's not working for one reason or either like the drums didn't sound right or the groove isn't tight enough
No,
or you know
not
just
only.
whatever.
I was just thinking, but they didn't step out and you replaced the drum parts and then they came back in. That's just bizarre to me.
Oh no, yeah, it would just be yeah, they would like keep my part
Yeah.
and the original and they just have to have a conversation and like tell the drummer like, hey,
Right.
like yeah, it's if they say something, I'm sure that there have been times where people haven't noticed, you know, because it was mostly like a tone thing, and they'd be like, "Oh, the mix sounds great now." You know, it was like changing the snare tone or something
Right.
like that. Because there's a studio here in town um, that does mostly live on the floor style recording because it's a tape op studio, so it's like it's all 32 tracks of tape on the front end going into Pro Tools. So they just prefer and they have a big live tracking room. So they prefer to get everybody to play live in the room and use the bleed to kind of create. They do a lot of like Americana and kind of like new
Right.
country stuff there. So at that place, it's like they would go in and the whole band does the whole take, and then it's like the drums just didn't, you know, they weren't the best take, but everything's bled. So then my job would be to come in and basically recreate what they played. So I would
Right.
like make these like detailed charts of like exactly note for note
Right.
what they played and then go in and play it again, but just with a new
Get,
snare drum or slightly tighter or whatever it was.
I get it.
Oh.
Brie, I have a question for you. You know, it's amazing the professional trajectory you've had over the years. And you've seen many decades, you know, you've gone through so many decades and so many, you know, there's been the sign of the time. So much has changed over the years. But how would you compare, you know, your earlier days, you know, when you started performing or then really in the thick of it, those videos that Mark put in the beginning, you know, your hair's so cool and your makeup and you're such a cool, like, you know, drummer rock chick. It's so amazing to watch back to now, you know, the very seasoned, you know, professional that you are now. You know, do you think, you know, things were better then or things are better now, especially for women, like in music? You know, were things fair for you back then or are they fairer now because, you know, of your reputation and what have you?
Well, you know, back in the early days, it probably wasn't as fair, but I don't know if I was aware of it. I really,
Okay.
I mean, I think I'm super ADHD and I just love to do what I do. And I don't hear the negative. I know that some of the other women in Fanny felt very put down and held back. And
Okay.
I knew that if I got to do what I was going to do, it was just going to knock somebody's socks off. I was always, and I think that I just love to perform also. And I don't think I have that. What is that called when you know, I don't have a guide to tell me when enough is enough.
Right.
Mine
Yeah.
sometimes. But and I really love that now today that so many women are taking it more freaking seriously. They're actually really good at what they do. Really good
Right.
guitarists, really good bass players, really
Yeah.
good drummers. I mean, I think for a while, God, and I don't want to put women down, but I feel like for a while women wanted to be allowed to do what they wanted to do just because they were a woman. You got to be the best one in the room. Then nobody can deny.
Sure.
I really do.
Yeah.
If you're freaking great, who's going to deny you? But you know,
Sure.
so I don't know if it was any less fair back then. Maybe we weren't owning the position that we could take, you know?
Sure.
I think that's generally how I feel.
But in opportunities, like are there more opportunities now, you feel like, for women, you know, musicians, or were those same opportunities back then, you know, like in terms of like male domination within, you know, the industry?
You know, I think that the opportunities were there. Maybe women didn't realize it, and maybe they didn't own it.
Okay.
Like, I mean, if you work as hard technically as you are able, I'm not a technical player, but if I worked as hard as Johnny did and was as good as him, nobody could deny me that spot.
Yeah.
Could they? The opportunity
Yeah.
was there. Nobody took it. Women.
Sure.
I don't think they actually took it. And I think they own it now. You know, there's some really
Yeah.
great players that you can't deny. So
There's
was
a lot
it
of education access now too. I think that probably helps because
What's
like that there's so much access to education now that it's
Yeah,
leveled
and
that playing field in
resources.
so many ways, like so many resources for learning like independently of even having to like go and be in person. You know, I've taught lessons for a long time, and I would say that I get a lot more, you know, I would get a lot more little boys than little girls coming in, of course, but that the little girls were always interestingly enough, much better students, like vastly superior students at a young age, because they, you know, little girls are a little bit more like, okay. And the little boys are gonna be like, no, I don't want to do anything that you told me. Whatever you told me to do, I'm going to do the opposite. That kind of tended to be, at least the students that I had, that was sort of my experience. And
right?
so I feel like because the education has become so available that little girls are actually probably progressing at this stuff at a faster rate than little boys are. And
Yeah,
so I'm finding that, at least even for me, like I find that the coolest rock bands and the coolest the most punk rock stuff is not coming from men. Most men are just so afraid to be themselves that they like there's this like machismo that most men have to like portray at all times, where they can't allow themselves to be vulnerable. And so what good artists are invulnerable? Like that's like kind of part of the whole thing, right? So I think that for, at least for me right now, I think a lot of women artists are just vastly um, outpacing most of the male artists. And I think that some of that is coming from, especially in the younger generations, I think that there's just been more egalitarian access to the education about it.
yeah. I just see, like, sometimes on YouTube or on Instagram or something, I see these young, you know, players, and even that, like, not just women or girls, but now all of a sudden kids realize they can be as good as any teenager, as any
Mhm.
20-year-old. There's not that stigma anymore. And they're
Yeah.
freaking good. It freaks me out, man. These little girls and little boys. So I think it's all just also, not just, but also just an awareness of what we can be, that we don't have to be a singer or a piano player if you're a female.
Sure.
You can
Yeah.
be a bitch and bass player or a badass drummer.
Yes.
As even like a small child. I mean, some of these kids, and dance, they're just blowing my mind. You know, I think they're just more aware. People are more aware, not just the kids themselves, but I guess people maybe in general are more aware. So they pass that on to kids that, yeah, go for it, do it. That's what I was saying about the opportunities were there before. We just didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool. Thank you. Thank you for answering.
I was just going to jump in and say for everybody watching that we've got 3 minutes left of this session. So either people watching or the guests, if you have a quick question that you wanted to get to one another or anything else, now's the time to do it before we end the session in about 3 minutes. So I don't know if anyone else had something in the back of their head that they wanted to bring
I
up.
do have a quick question. Has both of you, and whoever can answer who wants to or first, has your career so far gone the way you thought it would or wanted it to? Do you feel like you've surpassed what you thought you could do, or do you feel like you're still aiming for something?
Oh, I have like just the biggest dreams imaginable. So I'm not even really ever gonna feel like I'm close. You know, I have much bigger dreams even than just like being a drummer.
What's
So
the dream? Tell me real
I
quick.
mean, for me, the real thing here for me is that I feel like music has to have like a rebirth, and I think that what's been going on in music hasn't really been working. So for me, it actually feels bigger than just like being a musician and a performer.
Yeah.
So I think that's like one aspect for me. But like I also think that my career did also go exactly how I thought it would, which is like when I was like, I don't know, 14 or 15 years old, I remember basically having like a vision. I was playing my kit in my parents' basement. I used to like close my eyes and visualize like whatever I was doing. And I was playing along to a live record called Scenes from a Memory, live in New York by Dream Theater. And there's a part in the first overture piece where like Petrucci hits this note, and you hear the crowd just go like, like one of those things. And even to this day, like I get goosebumps when I think about it. And I was like, I will play that room, and I've gotten to play that. It's Webster Hall.
Yay.
So I got to like play that room, and then I got to play in a band like that I grew up playing their music, like stuff like that. So, in some ways, it's like that. I would never have expected to play in a band that I grew up jamming their songs, even though I used to pretend that I was the drummer in that band, if that makes any sense. So like, it's
Yeah.
in a way, it's like I knew I was going to be here, but also you don't really have any, or at least I didn't have any clue like what crazy winding terrible mishaps and misfortune and how many years it would take to finally just end up in the right position to like finally take advantage of an opportunity. So for me it was like that holding pattern of just waiting until a real opportunity arose to rise to the challenge and then be showcased at a level that somebody could then go, oh, you actually are a world-class musician, not just like a guy who plays at home. So yeah, had never really knew where it was going to go, but I used to film myself playing in my parents' basement so I could watch back, and like all these years later I'm still doing the same thing, and I just put it on the internet.
How about you, Bel? Are you where you want to be? Are you still aiming for something?
I feel like I'm still aiming for something. I have evolved, a lot over the years, and that just comes naturally. I think sometimes I also, what's the word? Not underestimate. What's the word? I don't perhaps give myself enough credit for the things I've already done. Like I almost sort of go, oh, but I haven't done this, or I've only just done that. But then when I really think about it, it's like, hold on a sec. I started here and the opportunity came up and I've done this. And, not anyone has been able to, tour all over the country or even sing in different places. I've been able to sing overseas as well, like in 3 other countries. And sometimes I don't think I give myself enough credit in that sort of way. So because, sorry?
Do you have an ultimate goal?
No, I don't. I think I tend to just flow with the wind. As I said, I'm ready to go. Like I guess I'm not driven in that way to just actively go, right, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do that. I'm more of I am open to the universe. Come at me because I am ready. I'm available. I have an open heart. And I guess that's why, for example, here I do so many different things, but it's also in the hope to just consistently get more work. So Adelaide is quite a small city, and I don't belong to a band that has, let's say, a residency where they're gigging. There's a couple of bands here that have a gig every Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, the whole year. I am not in any such band like that. So that's why I sing in a band that does bachata and reggaeton. That's why I sing in another band that exclusively does weddings and corporate gigs. And I do work with them. I do work as a children's entertainer as well. I'm bilingual, and I love, that's another part of as myself as an entertainer. When you perform for kids, it's a completely different ball game than when you perform for adults. Kids, you need to get down to their level. They can see straight through you, and you've got to adapt yourself to them. Adults can sometimes, when they're around the kids, you can see they're a bit awkward because it's a fully grown lady, doing fun things for the kids. So whether it be for the kids or whether I'm singing in Spanish, boleros and, olden songs for the more Hispanic singers of my community. I do a lot of community work. That's me. I'm either emceeing a festival or weddings, or I'm performing for kids, or I'm also touring the country with, the Hindley Street Country Club, or I'm international. I'm anywhere that an opportunity comes up, I grab it. But I wouldn't, looking at, your trajectory, like yours, Johnny, and, yours, Brie, I'm in absolute awe, and I feel quite humbled to be, amongst you both with all the most, amazing things that you've done. I would hope to have those opportunities as well, because I can see how much it's really, shaped you both, and how you've grown from having those experiences, whether they be a challenge for you, Johnny, like learning something really quickly and, going on tour, or you, Brie, coming into an ensemble and, staying true to your colours and performing, the way you are, and then meeting lots of different people along the way. I would hope that I still have those opportunities in place somewhere in the universe. I'm going to throw it out there.
My brother, and I really value this. He's also, all of my brothers and sisters are musicians, but my younger brother told me that as all three of us are as musicians, that we are in the 1% that get to do what we love, and that's just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I don't get to be to any level, I guess, to how, you've gotten to be, with your recording and all the amazing things that you've done, you too, Johnny, I would just hope, if I know it's might seem like a small dream, but I just want to do this ideally until I take my last breath. And I know it's really cheesy, it's really corny, but, I have been asked, by people who are more of an ethnic background, because I'm a woman, I'm of a certain age, I have, this cultural background, and the question's been, when are you going to stop doing this? And I find that question really bizarre. And I'm like, what do you mean this? Like, what am I doing that I need to stop? But like, this, like, your music, you're singing, and it's like, I hope I never stop doing this. Like, when does a painter stop painting? When does a chef stop cooking? When does someone, an artist, someone who is passionate about what they do and it brings them joy in their life, and, it gives a sense of fulfillment and contentment, like, when do you tell them, when do they stop? So ideally, when I've looked at, people who've influenced me, especially on a more on an ageist level, when I've looked at, say, Omara Portuondo from the Buena Vista Social Club, and even all those old folks from Buena Vista Social Club. When I've looked, I saw a couple of years ago the Gypsy Kings live, the singers, and they were still playing the flamenco, and they were, dancing, and then their sons are now, they're the next generation in the Gypsy Kings. And even, looking, for example, Ozzy Osbourne, he did this one last concert, like he couldn't even stand. They brought him down, he was sitting on this throne, and then he passed away. And I mean, like, really soon after that concert. And so seeing, these older artists, giving it their all right until, almost their very last breath, bring that on. That's what I would want, that's my dream. So very different, I guess, to the dreams you guys have, but
it's not any different. It's
I would love that.
To me, success is loving what you do.
Yeah.
Mm.
You're,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, Johnny, it seems like you do too. And I love what I do. So
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't my job, I would still be doing it, like one way or another.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting though. I would say that I've had this interesting experience with music where over the years, the part that I really love the most is creating the music.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
love performing live, like don't get me wrong, but I think that if I never played another live show ever again, but I still had the opportunity to make music with people every single day, that would also be perfectly fine with me.
yeah,
If
yeah.
I
And
never performed, if I never performed the drums outside of a studio ever again, I would be okay with that, you know? Yeah.
I used to get scared thinking about like when I was probably in my 20s or something. I used to think, what would ever happen if I couldn't play drums anymore? And, you know, now I'm 76 and, you know, I'm finding that there's even more out there creatively. You know, you just
Mm,
don't have to
Yeah.
stop doing what you love.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And even in music, I feel like there's always another instrument to learn, or there's
Oh,
another thing that you can approach. Like
Yeah.
there's really no end if you're, I've been playing a lot of guitar recently,
yeah.
so it's like I'm always taking on a new challenge. Is something that
I
like
want to learn how to
I'm not
play
good at.
bass.
Yep.
Bass is
I
kind of
play guitar like I
drums.
play guitar like a bass player. I'm just still pretty like manhandly, but yeah.
Yeah.
well, everyone, I hate to stop this, but we're past the 90-minute mark by 10 minutes. And we probably could go for another 3 hours if based on how the conversation's going, which tells me I got the right people together. All three of you are wonderful
Yay.
guests.
It's really fun,
Uh,
guys. I really respect you all. It's really,
Same here. It's been an absolute honor, and
Yeah.
it's been fun to be amongst you. I've learnt so much, and and we were talking about inspiration before. I've definitely taken some inspiration from both of you with what you've done, how you think, your passions, and even just your future aspirations. I've appreciated your time. Thank you so much. If you're ever in Adelaide, hit me up.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Bel, Brie, Johnny, thank you for taking the time today to to come together. And well, we've got 3 different time zones, 2 different days, 2 different continents here in this group. So it's pretty amazing with this technology that we can come together and have
Yeah.
this discussion. And it was great for me. I was just kind of hanging back the entire time, and that's exactly what these are supposed to be. So who knows, maybe in the future we end up having all 3 of you come back together and you can continue this conversation,
Yay.
because
Fun.
there's so much to go through.
Yeah.
But for right now, again, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone that's been watching. I see people in the comments, and yeah, have a great start of our week. Johnny, you're going to be playing some shows. I know you said you're going to be hitting the road on Tuesday.
Yep.
Brie, I'm sure you've got a bunch of
Thanks a
stuff
lot.
going on down there. And then Bel, your week already started because it's Monday over there. So,
I'm in the future.
yeah.
I'm ahead of time of you.
But again, thank you so much for taking the time, everybody, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.